Let's talk about this. We can work this out.
Let do us part.
David, please. Please, let's just try and work this out.
Happy anniversary.
Please.
The one thing I would say you have to have as a scriptwriter, I think first you need to read a lot. Your descriptions need to paint that picture very accurately. Like,
welcome to the sit down where we have conversations with creators from across this beautiful motherland of ours. My name is Makomboe, a filmmaker and an all-round story lover. So today we are sitting down with Brian Munene, an award-winning script writer. He has under his belt numerous short films and TV series. I'm telling you, he has won Kalasha Film Festival. He has won MVCA Africa. He's a person you need to listen to when it comes to storytelling. So sit down and settle in.
According to God's holy ordinance, this I pledge to you. Those were the vows I swore to you on our wedding day.
Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us on this session, on this YouTube session, on this show.
I'll tell my mom I was on TV.
You are famous. You are famous. How do you create a story? And essentially, and the most basic thing, who is a writer? Who is a script writer?
Who is a scriptwriter? So a scriptwriter is someone who structures a story. I don't think we create. I think stories are there. We experience them every day. We interact with interesting stories, interesting individuals and stuff like that. I think the stories are there. A scriptwriter just structures it in a way. One, a producer can understand it. A crew can break it down so that it is packaged in a way that an audience can consume it. I think that's a scriptwriter is an architect. They lay down the plans for people to build that massive building that everyone is at awe.
Wow,
that's what I would say a scriptwriter is. I don't on my personal. So I'm currently. So hey, how do I even say this? So I am in a writer's room currently that I would say is the best I have been in so far.
Wow.
Yes. And this writer's room is filled with very talented, very experienced people. Yeah. And the one thing that makes this writer's room stand out from any that I have ever been in is the honesty and vulnerability of the people in that room.
Yeah. I think that's the question I would pull from that is, what do you need to be a writer? What arsenal do you need to come with?
Number one, what makes a story? I think a lot of people, even people who have a lot of experience writing scripts, some still haven't grasped what a story is. I feel the understanding of what makes a story is the key element every writer, whether you're a scriptwriter, novelist, a blogger and stuff like that, that's the key thing you need. You need to understand what a story is. What makes a story? Why does this story relate with many people and this other one doesn't? What are those elements in this story that make it compelling, that make it entertaining, that make it interesting, that hooks the audience? I feel that is the biggest thing any writer needs to have.
And do you have to be, some people said, like for me, I'd say I struggle with getting the perfect spellings and grammar. And do you have to be like a Finnish English or English woman? Do you have to be like
So I usually have a lot of spelling errors on my scripts. I think any producer that I have worked with will tell you that they usually don't look at my spelling. I have consistent grammatical errors. Like I would put your Y-O-U-R instead of your Y-O-U apostrophe R-E.
Yeah.
And there and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
I mean,
are like.
first of all, let us say English is one of the most difficult languages out there. Honestly, I'd rather write most languages, phonetic languages like Swahili. The way I say something is just the way I write it. These other things of there, who's are thee? I just.
But the one thing I would say you have to have as a scriptwriter, I think first you need to read a lot. Your descriptions need to paint that picture very accurately. Like you can't just say he lives in a house. You need to describe this house in a way that people know what kind of house is it. What are the, like you don't go into details like novelists who say there were paintings on the wall, stuff like that. But you need to be concise and deliberate with the things that when a producer reads, they know this house needs to have a 65-inch TV, even though it's not in the script. It'd be like, this guy is into tech. He's a gamer. He's into tech. He's a gamer. His favorite color is blue. He likes things very square. Like those details give people like you already know this guy has like a 65-inch TV, a PlayStation. His house is very LED lit, neon colors, and you get like you don't have to write everything in detail. Like he has an L-shaped sofa set that is gray in color, but you have to be very deliberate with all the things that you're mentioning so that when someone reads it, they can visualize what is happening.
And I mean, the question is, if I was starting out, like what path? Is there a path for one to follow? Is there a route, maybe not a route of success, but some way for someone who imagines themselves as a writer to begin?
So something I discovered recently that I wish I had discovered way back then, but we didn't have 5G internet and fiber and all these things, is you can watch a movie and then download the script. Like the best place for anyone to start is watch a movie. If you like that movie, download the script, read the script. I feel you won't get any better education than that, because you can compare. This is what was written, this is what was on screen, so you can literally tell the journey between the script to the screen, and you understand, okay, this guy walked in here, this is what was written, this guy did this was the emotion that was portrayed on the script.
Can see that.
Like I feel that is the most awesome place to start. Find a movie that you like, find a movie that you love, watch it, immediately you finish, download the script and then read it. Then if you have like maybe notes or something doesn't make sense to you in the script or something off, you can watch the movie again and then compare it to the script.
And I think just off the podcast session we had with you, we talked about you finally deciding to take a jump into writing feature films, but you have a multitude of short films under your belt. Is there a particular skill set that someone needs to have to be able to write short films? What do you need to come into the process of short film writing with?
So the one thing feature film affords you is time. You have time to set up characters. You have time to set up scenarios. You have time to set up the story world and stuff like that. But with short films, you don't have that time. The key where a lot of people fall short in short films is they try to set up the world. They try to put that exposition there so that when the payoff happens, people understand. But because it's such a short time, and this person's attention span is going with every second, you lose your audience before they get to that part where they'd be hooked. I feel for short films, you need to find a balance between your hook and your exposition. These two things need to happen at the same time. You need to pull people into this world, but hook them at the same time, because you don't have the same amount of time someone who has 2 hours has. You have 10, 15, 20 minutes to tell your whole story. So hook these people from the first minute to the last minute.
I love you.
I love you.
Brian,
Who the hell are you?
I'm here to take you home.
You're not supposed to be here.
Wait, Brian.
Achana na mimi!
Brian, please. You need to listen to me.
Achana mimi!
Your wife sent me. She wants you to come back home.
Dude, I'm 21 years old, okay? I don't have a wife.
No, you're not. This isn't you, Brian.
This is me! Okay, that thing out there, that's not me. That's just an empty shell.
Looking at that short film, you can start it off by telling us, what's the story about, and what was the process conceptualizing? What seems like a sci-fi drama? What was the process?
So Daydream was born of a philosophical question. Would you rather live in the past or accept your fate and change your future?
I think from that I can just say we have come to the end of this show.
No.
I need a moment to think about what you just asked.
I had a friend who music was his entire life. He used to play the guitar, piano, saxophone. I don't know. He would play like 16 instruments, and he was really, really good at it. And then he was diagnosed with arthritis.
Wow.
So
his hands, his feet, his fingers couldn't.
His coordination his coordination sort of became not what it used to be. So he couldn't play at the level he used to play. And at one point he even contemplated suicide because music was his whole life, and now it's sort of being taken away from him. So Daydream was this man who has lost the use of his legs, sort of refusing to, because he's in a coma, but he can sort of come back, but he doesn't want to. So he has created this world in his mind where he used to be free. He used to be himself. He's replaying all his favorite memories when he could run, when he could do all these things. And now the wife feels like she has been abandoned by this person who has sort of given up. And hires this person to sort of go into his mind and tell him that I'm waiting for him.
So how do you approach that from a writer's perspective? You have a question, at least you have a question that you set for yourself.
Yes.
So how do you translate that question into a story?
I can give you an example so one of the feature films that I am writing that is still in early phases of development is called The Retreat. So The Retreat is a cancer patient who has decided to kill himself, giving his friends and loved ones one last amazing weekend before he commits suicide. So the thing that sort of inspired this story. So I had a friend who was diagnosed with leukemia like 2 years ago, and she passed on like 3 months ago. When we got the news, the first thing that hit me was relief, not grief, because I saw her pain, like that whole journey, as fundraising for her, going to India, getting that whole stem cell treatment, it not working, us having to raise funds again for her to go for maybe another procedure that might work. Like, because I was there with her for those, like we were part of her life for those 2 years, and we saw what it did to her, that when we got the call that she has passed on, it was more of she's now at peace rather than sadness. You get. And I kept wondering, if I feel like this, and cancer has been like such a big problem in our society, I'm sure very, very many people have felt like this. So how do I show what I am feeling in a film? And I was like, I need to find a person that will take us through the journey of how bad it is, how bad the treatment, how bad the financial aspect is, how bad everything that happens with cancer patients is. So I was like, who would be the best person to take us through that? Is it a patient that is undergoing that? And if it is a patient, how do we see that? How do we connect with that emotion? Then I got the idea, how about having someone who is not a patient, but interacts with cancer patients on a day-to-day? I was like, okay, that's interesting. So who would this person be? So I started doing research. I even visited a cancer ward, and I met this guy. He's an oncology nurse. And then he was giving me his story of how he's been there for like 8 years, and he has seen almost 70% of the patients who are there lose their lives. A big chunk of them who are kids. Like there's a kids section, and he usually goes there, plays with them, gives them toys, trying to make them laugh. They'll be there for like 3 months, and then they would pass on. And I was like, that's perfect. This would be the perfect driver for this story. Someone who is surrounded by these cancer patients, so that you can see that struggle. But then I was like, okay, so we have that driver, but how do we get to show that aspect of the pain? How do we get to show that aspect of the journey? And I was like, aha, what if this oncology nurse is diagnosed with cancer? A person who has been around cancer, a person who has seen the worst and the best of cancer treatment actually gets this disease. I was like, okay, that is interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, so oncology nurse gets cancer.
Yeah, I can almost imagine the struggle, especially if we begin the story where they don't have and you associate with them, and then they're met with these things. So they're posed a challenge that they faced for other people, but never for themselves. And how do they articulate that? So I can absolutely see that.
Exactly. And so I was like, aha, so this oncology nurse is diagnosed with cancer. And because he has seen what it has done to families, what it has done to people, and the chances of success and failure and all this, decides, I'm not going through with treatment. I'm going to spend 1 weekend with my family, and then I'm going to kill myself. And that's what sparks this whole conversation. That's what sparks this whole journey. That's how I felt. This was the vehicle I felt best could speak to what I was feeling when my friend was experiencing what she was experiencing.
Would you say you draw a lot of your stories from a deep sense of empathy?
Yes, but I feel that is the only way to tell a compelling story. If people can't relate with what your character is going through, with their struggles, with their humanity, then you have lost them. They need to be there physically and emotionally for that character. They need to understand your character is doing this because of this. And they also need to question, if I was in that situation, would I have done the same thing?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, and is there something that you feel, at least writers within the Kenyan context and maybe within the African context, there's always that conversation of how do we tell our stories in a way that is ours? I don't know if ours is the right word. That you can say, this is, I don't know, maybe not say this is a Kenyan story, but the voice within the story is so clear that you'll be like, yeah, this is not someone trying to do something else, but this is organically, I don't know, maybe ours.
I'm going to say something very, is it controversial?
Yeah.
I don't believe in story placement. I believe they're stories, period. I don't believe they're American stories. I don't believe they're Kenyan stories. I don't believe they're European stories. I believe they're stories, period. This is usually my favorite example. Yeah. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, very Italian story, English adapted. Can work anywhere in the world. Yeah. It's not about us telling our stories, it's about us finding our voice and amplifying that voice. That's the thing that we lack. Stories are universal. The same reason Thor, who's a Norwegian god, is now in a Marvel universe. That's not an American story. Aliens are not an American story. Cavemen's Neanderthals happened in Africa, not an American story. Like, story is universal. It is that voice underneath that story that we have shied away from. Like, we don't talk about our plight, we don't talk about our issues, we don't talk about things that are universally unique to us. Yeah. We try to do romantic comedies, we try to do things about mental health, we try to do things that are of the world, but not of us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That almost sounds like a biblical scripture right there. And I think that's the best place to end this and say thank you so much, Brian, for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there a place where people can find you to ask any questions that they might have, or watch your work?
I am everywhere. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am not on Snapchat and TikTok. I am not on TikTok.
What is happening? I thought you were more than that.
I don't get Snapchat. I honestly don't. I tried TikTok and I was like, no.
Not my thing.
Like, I love TikTok videos, but I don't think I can make one.
Yeah. Which is fine. So will it be at Brian Munene? Will it be?
Yes. So on Instagram is at Brian Munene. On Facebook is at Brian Munene. On Twitter it's at Brian Munene _G.
_G. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving us your time. We appreciate you. Have an amazing day.
Yeah, you too. And thank you for having me.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can catch a more in-depth conversation between me and Munene in our podcast. Link in description. See you on the next one.